This episode brought to you by the Pirated Broadcast Network.
The world has received many warnings from saints, extraterrestrials, and prophets. The world has been given many signs. However, at the end of time, everyone will recognize that which he did not want to see. At the time of the ascension, it will be up to us to realize that 1/3 of the air, 1/3 of the water, 1/3 of the flora and fauna, and 1/3 of mankind has left the planet, as indicated in various apocalyptic prophecies. A smooth transition would occur if the light workers and humans, through liberation of their active love, and through the call for divine grace, and if millions of people were willing to work on themselves in order to participate in a mass ascension. This would weaken the global events and divert the karmic release more towards the individual human beings. The present readiness for this, however, is only too limited, and Mother Earth will shake us to wake us up.
Much of the information does indicate that parts of continents will sink. Certainly the first chapter of the book, Zukunft Vision, talks about my personal experience of living through what I felt was the sinking of much of the lands of California. And I've also done research then into what Edgar Casey has said about Japan, or parts of Japan going into the sea. And finally, the work of an American channel named Lori Wilkins Toy, whose Freedom Star map shows even part of Australia being split in half, a good deal of Russia and the northern part of Europe going under the water, and parts of Northern and South America. All of this would be compensated by new land, however, coming up in the Pacific, a new Lemurian type of land, I guess, and possibly some new land in the Atlantic that might be considered to be a new Atlantis, so that the relationship between continents and the sea would remain pretty much constant over time.
The current events on Earth should surely wake up every sensitive person to the fact that we are in the seventh ending of time, and that several prophecies have already partially been realized, or are bound to happen very shortly. The cyclical apocalypses of creation are like a school of life, where one is promoted to the next grade at the end of term. A certain percentage of mankind is not capable of ascending to the next grade because of a lack of preparation. After their present lifetime, they are going on vacation for a long recovery in the astral world. After a good recovery, the souls repeat the failed school year on other planets, and then move on to new cycles of incarnations. The positive and the negative on this planet are continuously strengthening. We receive daily news of earthquakes from around the planet, flood disasters, volcanic eruptions, well over 100 war zones, and many massacres are causing new famines, misery, and new migrations of nations. We are receiving daily news of new environmental disasters. The ozone hole spreads out at a frantic pace. The jungles which represent the lungs of the earth are being cut down globally. The loss of trees through environmental destruction is escalating. The greenhouse effect and the Earth's temperature are increasing globally. Thus the climatic zones are shifting so fast that we can already observe the change. Snow is falling in areas where there has not been any before, and elsewhere it is warming up in areas where it used to be cold. The ecological balance has already been disturbed to such a degree that thousands of species of animals and plants have already apparently disappeared from this planet forever. Other species are in plague proportions, as happened in ancient Egypt. We seem to be suffocating in our own rubbish and poison dumps. Millions of people are infected with new and apparently incurable diseases. Raw materials seem to be exhausted, and the Earth is experiencing a population explosion.
Yes, I've been working for a number of years on future progressions. This work culminated in the book Mass Dreams of the Future, in German Zukunftsvisionen der Menschheit. And the method that was used was started by Dr. Helen Wambach to take people into past lives. It's a light trance state used in groups where we would then ask very ordinary questions of people once they were taken into a specific future time period. The numbers of people that we worked with were over 2,500, and actually in the book we have results from about 500 out of that group. In part that's because many people didn't find themselves coming back in the time periods that we initially asked them. This was one of the first and rather surprising results of our research, that so few people found themselves coming back to the Earth or to the material plane at the time of a couple hundred years from now. The fact that there are so few people that seem to come back in the time periods that we worked with could lead one to believe that there might be something like an apocalypse in the future. However, I think that it's a question of a choice that we have in this matter, and possibly it's not the kind of apocalypse people might be thinking of. There are many conditions that could lead to a drop in the population. For example, we could have some worse plagues or worse illnesses than the ones we've already had. We could have, of course, atomic war, or we could have natural catastrophes that might also occur, or some combination of these. I'm not sure that anyone can answer, will there be exactly an apocalypse, but certainly the data that comes out does indicate that there will be great changes taking place.
The world is becoming more hectic. Everything is about survival. Money, power, addictions, and distractions have become the companions of mankind. Some secret organizations want to gain absolute control over humanity. Religions are calling for a holy war against dissentient brothers. During a dark age, the human mind is directed towards materialism. The negative attributes of his ego are fear, guilt, control, calculation, envy, security, dominance, pride, arrogance, manipulation, and striving for power. His helpers are the present, exclusively materialistic social systems. Unlimited growth is like a cancer of mankind within the planetary organism called Earth. Fear for jobs, fear for supplies, fear of diseases. Fear seems to be the prime motivation of all social life.
My personal feeling about the future is that it's coming along pretty fast, and much of the research that we did for the book was done in the 1980s and showed that in the future times there would be a series of great changes, including particularly ecological changes. Perhaps the most positive part was that very few people, one or two out of the 500 or 600 that we worked ultimately with, only saw some kind of nuclear holocaust. Very, very few people saw that. It doesn't seem to be our future. I personally feel that we have 2 or 3 more years to do the preparations that are necessary and possibly to work with the energy fields to change some of these catastrophic situations for the future, or they will be upon us before we realize it. Certainly by the end of this decade.
Everything looks very negative, and among the scientists with inside knowledge, the opinion is spreading that it may be 5 minutes past midnight for the future of Earth and mankind. The train has already departed. Mankind now wants to enter adulthood and has apparently tilted the balance of the planet. Humanity is already stuck in a crisis of evolution, and for some the downfall of mankind has already begun. For others,